folks. It's me, Jeff Galashaw. Like you don't know, it's written right there. You should by now. But we are back with another episode of Unfinished Business Deep Dive. I am the host, Jeff Galashaw, and with me, as always, is Andre Joseph of AJ Epics. And this week, as if you've watched a previous episode, we were talking about the other running scare that came 20 years later. That has no relation to the 1986 Billy Crystal, Gregory Hines movie, but it does involve cops. This film is I'll say a crime movie that involves the mob. It involves Paul Walker's character, who is a mob underling who has to get a random gun that was used during a shootout back after it's stolen by his next door neighbor's son, who is a family friend, and the son runs away after using the gun to shoot his father, and it involves the mob, Russian mob, everything. I would say hijinks are included, but there's no hijinks. It's just pure like drama. This is one of the most nihilistic movies you'll ever watch that involves cops, mob, criminal. But there is an interesting aspect of the movie, which is in the end, it feels, for as gritty as it is, it kind of feels like a fairy tale by the end of it, or it just feels like something otherworldly, where things are being manipulated or shaped in a certain way. That doesn't actually take away from the film. It's what keeps you interested, because it also adds in the what's going to happen next factor throughout this film. It also involves a twist, which I'll get into later, that totally, it works for an audience, but if you really think about the plot of this movie, it makes no sense. This film is written and directed by Wayne Kramer, and I will admit, I was not the biggest Paul Walker fan. I love Paul Williams, but before I saw this movie, and he was in the Fast and the Furious, he was in a few other films, and I was always like, okay, he's okay. But when I saw this trailer when it first came, I was shocked, because I was like, this looks cool and badass from jump. And I was like, I have to go see this movie, especially just for the hockey scene they show glimpses of in the trailer with, him taking hockey pucks to the face, and all at that time, which was new for some of us, neon and day glow colors. And I was just like, I am in on this movie. And I respect Paul Walker as an actor, but I'm going out on a limb. It was probably, to me, his best movie he was ever in.
Yeah, it's up there.
I'm not going to sit here and say he gives the best performance, because it being a mob movie, he also involves a ridiculous accent where he's supposed to be from Jersey, I guess to fit in with everybody else in the movie. If you're not Russian, you're from Jersey in this movie. So think of it as an early Sopranos with more action. But also has a good cast, great cast. Chaz Palminteri as, the questionable cop in this movie. I remember at the time being so excited to see the VJ or ex-VJ at that point, Dallas De Leon, in this movie, even though she only has like one scene. And strangely enough, the most memorable character is David Warshawski as Lester the Pimp, a white pimp who speaks all in supposedly African-American and 1970s colloquialisms, but it's so ridiculous. He literally wears all white, has a gold chain, but what I liked about his performance is at first you feel this is purely comedic, but then towards the end, he becomes more and more threatening, which I thought was powerful. But I obviously love this film. Andre, tell me about your history with this movie.
So I remember when it came out, and when I heard the title, I was kind of jarring. Like, this is another running scare. I knew it was a different movie, but the fact that they're using that title was kind of strange. But two things I remember, because I didn't see it until recently for this episode.
Okay.
The trailer with the hockey scene, Paul Walker getting hit in the face with the hockey puck. The other thing I remember, because it was very controversial at this time, they had an online game to promote this movie. So there's a scene in this film when Paul Walker is trying to get it on with Vera Farmiga, and there's a point where it looks like he's giving her head. they made an online game of this on their website to promote the movie, and they took it down because it was too racy. Basically, you're trying to get a high score for like making your girl, climax. So yeah, like that sets the tone for the kind of movie this is, where on one hand it's supposed to be like a mob thriller, him trying to find this kid, find this gun that was part of this robbery. But then it just goes balls to the wall all over the fucking place with where this kid ends up, encountering the pimp, encountering the hooker, then encountering some pedophiles who go out and they kidnap kids and kill them. And that whole sequence where he's trying to escape, and then Vera Farmiga finding him and questioning, it's that guy from Rookie of the Year who played like the asshole boyfriend, and then the chick who played Bruce Altman, and then Elizabeth Mitchell who played Mrs. Santa Claus in the Santa Claus sequels. That's how like out of the box casting this movie is. And like all this crazy shit that's going on, it's like somebody must have had a lot of drugs on that set, or they drank so much coffee. Like every take had to be so over the top, even down to the cinematography. That's actually why I don't like this movie, because it's so out there. It's just way too crazy for me.
But see, that's part of the reason why I like it. I like, even though it feels like it's shoehorned in the whole pedophile storyline, and it gives Vera Farmiga something to do rather than sit at home and cry. The only weakness in that scene is her monologue in that scene where I believed in good and evil until I was just like, okay, this is a little over the top. That's the only, in fact, in this crazy movie, that's the only time I'm like, okay, that's a little over the top. But I mean, even the mobsters with not only are they over the top, first of all, the bad guy's sidekick villain seemed like he's pumped full of steroids throughout this, because he's just so always jumpy. And to add to that, they are just over the top racist too. Like you mentioned the N-word, everybody, even when there's no black people around, they're still using it. It's like, really? Even The Sopranos doesn't do this. And so, I mean, it has Michael Cudlitz, who is one of my favorite like television character actors. But again, they give him nothing to do. He's like, oh, I'm the big guy in the background. That's all I have. The movie was originally supposed to star Thomas Jane, who turned it down because he had other commitments. So Paul Walker is actually the second choice.
They should have got Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, this is one of the few times I would have been like, Mark Wahlberg would have worked.
That's what was going through my head when I was watching it. Look, God bless Paul Walker, but I don't like when these guys have to put on like a Jersey accent or a New York accent when they're clearly not from New York or New Jersey. That's what hurts a movie like this.
Okay, this is where we're gonna have to. Okay, folks, we're going into spoiler territory, but that is what works, because when it's revealed that he was an undercover cop this whole time, it's like, okay, I can see how that would work film wise. You would think, like, wouldn't the other guys really notice he's really laying his accent on thick if he never was really from around there? But this is where the weakness of the film comes, is because, so you're telling me he was an undercover cop, he fell in love with this woman, got her pregnant, so their marriage is already based kind of upon a lie, because he never told her the truth. In fact, even when they shoot up the house and kill supposedly his father, the family guy, they don't seem too broken up, and it ends up, oh, that was another guy in witness protection too? Like, that element, it works for the story overall to absolve everything and have them come in safe, but it makes no sense if you really think about it.
It's like the gag on South Park with the cop that's looking for the chicken lover, whoever he was after. It was like one of the later seasons, and like he's going undercover, like he marries the suspect, and they buy a house, and then he arrests the suspect.
It's sort of like that, just like, I mean, I can imagine Trump America loving this film for Paul Walker's speech about what there is to love in America. I will admit, when Cameron Bright was a child actor, he was in everything. So I always found him a little annoying. So this is also like Paul Walker. This is one of the few performances I actually like him in. But being that I didn't like him as a child actor, I will admit, anytime he was in peril, I was like, yeah. You know, like maybe except for the pedophile scene. That one was like, nobody deserves this. It was like, whoa, I didn't even expect the movie to go there. But it's also like little things, like, again, since we're in spoiler territory, like finding out, oh, the pimp eventually did kill Idalis De Leon's character off screen. Or, you know, I'll admit, I didn't expect Vera Farmiga to kill the pedophile, even though obviously the audience wants it. But it was like, I thought you were such this deep Catholic, and it was like, oh, stab a finger. Okay, I'm gonna kill you. It's, you know, and what was really disturbing was the detail in that scene, like how they had the little body bags, the little tools they were gonna use. It was just like, that was just full on creepy. But I feel like that's what, I guess it's over the top, but that's what also made it realistic. Just like the homeless guy who would just disappear in the shadows and would take the boy to a different place. You know, little things like that. Those little details made me love this film and feel like, okay, this is something different. Because it could have been, you know, your typical mob undercover cop movie, but I feel like those elements made it different. And I mean, come on, the action sequences alone, even though I'll admit now you recognize a lot of CGI, but just those sequences in small spaces are impressive. Come on,
brutal.
like,
it's a very brutal.
Yeah. Character. The only thing is like the hockey game with what's his name wanting to be John Wayne. That is where you kind of like roll your eyes, like, really?
Yeah.
And you know, his wife having to commit suicide by blowing up the fucking house. It's like, gee, you couldn't just like slit your wrist, take some pills. It's like, it just felt like a Michael Bay movie at that point. Like, oh, there has to be an explosion. Why don't we do this? But I will say,
Cameron was trying to be like Paul Verhoeven.
Hey, this is my reason why I feel like Wayne Kramer deserves more movies, you know, because again, it's typical, but a lot of the stuff, at least he's giving an original spin on it. It might not 100% make sense, but he's making it interesting and adding his own little twist. Because, I mean, his subsequent movies, I still like all his other films, too. I even like the Crossing Over with Harrison Ford. Mm-hmm. You know, so I always feel like he has an original voice, and I wish he, just like Joe Carnahan, these are, to me, should have been the next wave of action comedy or action film directors just in general, because I'd rather them have these bigger reputations than, let's say, a Michael Bay, you know, who is more paint by numbers, but you exactly know what you're going to get. Joe Carnahan, Wayne Kramer, they offer like twists on things sometimes you don't even expect to see. So, you know, that's why I would have to say, maybe that's why I am such a fan of this film. And I feel like it's not Wayne Kramer's most subtle film, which is obviously the cooler, but this is personally my favorite of all the films he's made. So I didn't expect you not to like the film. I thought you were in the same house as me with, yo, this is amazing. So I'm actually quite shocked. Yeah, you didn't like
Tarantino's a big fan of this film. He liked Paul Walker and his role.
Yeah, because when the movie wasn't a hit and Paul Walker was sad about it, Quentin Tarantino left him a message praising the film and his performance. I mean, my thing is, like I said, that's why he died, unfortunately, too young, but I have nothing like really against Paul Walker. I mean, you know, I don't love the Fast and Furious movies, but it's not his fault I don't like him. It's not like, oh, if Paul Walker was in it, this would be great. You know, it's sort of like he was cut down in his prime, and I think he had more to offer than the roles that were offered to him necessarily. And this, to me, was like the start of showing, you know, that he could do more or be in better films. So that's my take on him in this film. Do you have anything else to say about the Running Scared you didn't like?
Not much. I mean, if you're an action junkie and you want mindless entertainment, it's the perfect film for you to watch on the weekend.
Not totally mindless, but the thing is, what I think might have hurt the film is that it's kind of an MTV styled film.
Yeah.
You know, because there's always constant cuts. So but I think it's definitely well worth watching and seeking out. Even if you don't love it, I still feel like there's impressive enough that it'll be memorable to you. At least in my vote. But again, I love the film. So that's all I'm going to say on this film this week. So that concludes our business for this week. But as you know, we always have unfinished business left to tackle, especially in the deep. But I have to ask you, have you seen the classic musical Gypsy? If starring Rosalind Russell again. If not, why not? Hey, since we're on theme. If not, why not? Because you should, because it's fucking awesome. Andre, what movie would you recommend? And for the people.
Have you seen Copland, the director's cut? If not, why not? Because it's fucking awesome.
And with that, we bid you adieu.